Most people believe the only way to lose 50 plus pounds is surgery or some new medication, but I'm here to tell you that is not true. I've coached people who've dropped 50, 60, even 100 pounds without ever going under the knife or relying on prescriptions. And today I'm going to show you exactly how they did it and how you can too. Our culture has convinced us that quick fixes are the only way to solve a lifetime of weight struggles, whether that's surgery, injections, pills, or even fad diet. The problem with that, they don't teach you how to live differently, how to build a new lifestyle. You can take all of the medications you want, all the injections and the surgeries, but if you never change your habits, you will always revert back to the version you were before. Take Mary, 55 years old, PCOS, hypothyroidism, post-menopause. She tried everything. Her doctor was so shocked by her transformation, 60 pounds gone without surgery or meds, that he literally asked me for my info to send his patients. Or Philip lost 75 pounds after eating a 20-piece McNugget from McDonald's every single day. He finally fixed his relationship with food and mastered flexible dieting. This isn't magic, it's strategy, and it works if you follow it properly. Now, obviously there is definitely some people whose surgery and medications are required for weight loss. I'm not against surgery or medications for weight loss. I just don't think that they're for everybody. I think for most people, you should at least try the natural methods first before diving into more invasive methods. There are multiple ways for you to lose weight, but I do believe that whatever route you choose for your own weight loss journey, you must have an exit strategy. And what that means is you must have a plan for after you lose the weight. Because the reality is, losing weight, that's the easy part. Sustaining the weight that you lost, that's the challenge. And that's what this plan focuses on. So let me break down the 4 things that will allow you to lose 50 plus pounds without surgery or medication. The first piece really is going to be your food. And I'm not talking about starvation or restrictions. I'm not talking about cutting out all the things that you love. Because the reality is, even if you do get surgery or take medication to lose weight, you still have to fix your relationship with food. That's why we build simple meal systems. Meal prep doesn't have to be boring, and honestly, staying stuck is way more boring than eating the same breakfast. So a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to eat the same thing every single day because it's boring. You know what's boring? Not losing the weight and staying stuck. And I do believe that for most people, when you meal prep, when you actually learn how to prepare your meals in advance or at least plan your meals in advance, that's going to solve most of your food issues. The thing that changed everything for me, and I believe can change everything for you, is instead of tracking my calories or tracking my food, I started to plan my calories. So instead of getting to 5 p.m. at night and asking myself or asking my wife, hey, what's for dinner tonight? I already have that planned, because here's the catch. For you, the reason why it's hard for you to figure out what you're gonna eat for dinner or for lunch or for snacks is because you make too many decisions throughout your day. The average person makes 226 decisions solely around food every single day. What fork you're gonna use, what plate you're gonna use, how long you're gonna heat your food up in the microwave, should you eat the leftovers last night or should you order DoorDash? 226 decisions. So if you want to actually lose 50 plus pounds without medications or surgery, how can you make less decisions throughout your day? And one of my favorite ways to do this is through meal prepping. Now there's 3 stages to meal prepping. The first is prepping for the full week. The next is prepping twice a week, or you can prep individual items to mix and match. So when it comes to meal prep, our goal isn't necessarily to make all of the meals for the full 7 days. You could definitely do that if you would like, but for some people, you're just gonna cook all of your chicken, or you're gonna cook all of your ground beef, or you're gonna cook all of your rice, and then you can mix and match meals from there. Or for others, you're gonna cook all of your meals from Sunday to Wednesday, and then from Wednesday to Saturday. But the concept here is I want to have a plan ahead of time for my meals. If I'm just winging it throughout the day and trying to figure out what's the healthiest option I have available to me, I will fail. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And so the key for mastering your food, fixing your relationship with food, is planning your meals out ahead of time. Even if that's just before you go to bed tonight, you know what you're gonna eat the next day. Next, instead of following restrictions or diets, we follow rules. One of those rules is eating protein at least 4 times per day. And so most restrictive diets have all of these guidelines you have to hit. You can't eat at this time. You can't eat this type of foods. But what if those guidelines were more positive than negative? Instead of you can't do this, it's you should do this. And one of those things should be you eat protein at least 4 times a day. How do you know if something is even high in protein? The easiest way to do this is if something has 1 gram of protein for every 10 calories. So if the food you're eating has 400 calories, we're looking for about 40 grams of protein in it. If it has 500 calories for a meal, we're looking for 50 grams of protein. If you eat 4 meals per day that are high in protein, meaning they have 1 gram of protein for every 10 calories, it's gonna be very hard for you not to lose weight. When you do this, you stay full, you build muscle, you burn fat, and you have sustained energy. And here's the shift. Instead of focusing on what do I need to subtract out of my diet, like carbs, pizza, sweets, we focus on what you need to add in to your diet. People that only focus on subtraction, I'm not allowed to do this, I'm not allowed to eat this, I'm not allowed to go here, they end up burning themselves out over time. But when we focus on addition, such as how can I add in high protein sweets? How can I add in more high volume foods like berries, Greek yogurt, egg whites, protein shakes? What happens if I add in more fiber to my diet? How is that going to change things? Now when my focus is that, I focus on adding in these high protein meals, I don't have room for the other junk that I was craving or struggling with most of the time. The average person, 80 grams of protein per day. When I focus on adding in the extra protein, I'm full all the time. I'm not starving and I don't have room for junk. When you add in the right foods, the junk naturally gets crowded out. And that's how you make nutrition sustainable. The second piece is movement. Notice I didn't say workouts that crush you. Most people fail at exercise because they try to out-train bad diet. They think if I just hit the gym harder, if I just run a little faster on the treadmill, if I just do this HIIT class, if I do this fasted cardio, then I can burn off all the negative and bad foods I ate yesterday. So here's what happens. You create this toxic relationship not only with food, but also with exercise. So you view exercise as punishment for the bad food you ate, and then you view food as the reward for you punishing yourself in the gym. That's not how it works. Here's the truth. Your relationship with food matters more than how many burpees you can do. You cannot out-exercise a bad diet. If you eat 1,200 calories over your limit on Saturday, you'd have to run a half marathon just to burn that off. It is easier to say no to a 300 calorie cookie than it is to go to the gym and do 300 calories burned on the Stairmaster. That's why fixing your nutrition has to come first. And movement is built on top of that. Now, here's what most people do. Most people just overcomplicate exercise with HIIT classes, boot camps, or running until they burn out. My philosophy is simple. Simple scales, complex fails. So what that means is if your plan, if your workouts are just too complex for you to understand, odds are it's not gonna work on the long term. If you've got 50 pounds plus to lose, the easiest win you can do for your cardio and movement is walking, period. Now you might think to yourself, well, how can walking help me lose 50 plus pounds more than running can? I'm not sweating, I'm not getting my heart rate up. That's what I used to believe. But the reality is you actually can burn more calories increasing your step count than you can working harder inside of the gym. For most people, getting 10,000 steps a day is hard. And you've probably heard people say, oh, get 10,000 steps. But how do you actually do that? The way I want you to do this is I want you to break up your steps into micro walks throughout the day. So you're gonna do 4 10-minute walks throughout your day, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at lunch, 10 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes at dinner. That's 40 minutes a day. And for most people, including all the other steps they get throughout the day, that's gonna add up to around 10,000 steps. If you can do that 10,000 steps per day, that's gonna equal 3,500 extra calories you're burning on a weekly basis, which is gonna lead to an extra 1 pound of body fat lost per week. That adds up over time. And you don't feel beat up. You don't have excess cravings like you would if you were to do a HIIT class or boot camps. So most people think, oh, I need to go do a boot camp class or HIIT classes. And if that's the only type of exercise you do, for a lot of individuals, it actually leads to them consuming more calories in the long term. The reason is because you exhaust your body, you exhaust your glycogen stores so much that your body just craves carbs, it craves food, and you end up snacking on more calories than you even burned in the first place. Here's the bonus. Walking is often when cravings go away. Instead of raiding your pantry when you have the cravings kick in, you take a 10-minute walk, reset your stress, and it changes the way you even relate to food. Now, when you do go to the gym, and I recommend working out at least 3 times per week, ideally, I would say 3 to 5 times a week, goal isn't to burn calories. So it doesn't matter if your Apple Watch says you burned 500, 600, 700 calories. The goal in the gym is building muscle, because muscle raises your metabolism and makes fat loss easier long term. A lot of individuals lose weight and gain it back simply because they are so focused on weight loss and they neglected muscle building. And if you're in a position where you're afraid to build muscle, you're like, why would I focus on building muscle if I have to lose 50, 60 pounds? I'm telling you, you will lose more fat if you focus on building muscle than if you focus on losing weight. So here's the formula. When you are not in the gym, outside of the gym, you walk more, you move more often. When you are inside of the gym, you focus on strength because you build muscle in the gym and you lose fat outside of the gym. Food is what drives weight loss. Movement is what drives calories burned. Lifting weights is what shapes your body and keeps the weight off. Put the two together and that's where transformation actually happens. The third piece to your 50 plus pound transformation naturally is accountability. And honestly, this is the secret. Mary and Charles both tried to do it alone. They'd start strong and then life would hit. Stress, work, family, and they'd fall off. And maybe you've been in that position too. You get onto a strong start and life happens. The reason why they were able to stick with it and lose 50, 60 plus pounds was because they had someone holding them accountable, a coach in their pocket, a checklist every single day. And here's the reality. You probably already know what you need to do. You're just not doing it. What's the difference? Difference is accountability. You need someone to hold you to the standards that you set for yourself. If your friends, family, or coworkers aren't chasing health, you have to find a community or a group of people that is. Surround yourself with people who will push you. And I always like to say, you need someone who's going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, because I can almost guarantee if you have 40, 50, 60, 70 plus pounds to lose, there will be curveballs thrown in your journey. It's not going to be this straight path. You're going to get going, you'll get started off strong, and then boom, your kids get sick. Or boom, you get an injury. Or boom, you have to pick up extra shifts at work. And you're going to have moments where you feel like, I don't know if I can do this. I might just have to quit. I might give up. So who's going to be there to push you past that limit? Because you've tried to do it on your own, so you actually need someone who's going to push you to that next level. The fourth piece is mindset. Now, on a journey of losing 50 plus pounds, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to lose 50 pounds in 3 months. You need to be consistent, not perfect. The reason people turn to surgery or medications is because they want fast results, and maybe they've tried these other natural methods and it just didn't work for them. But I believe for a lot of people, the reason why they give up too soon is because they have unmet expectations. They expect themselves to lose 50 pounds in 3 months. They expect their journey to be perfect in a straight line. But if you go into weight loss thinking, hey, I know this is going to be hard. I know this is going to require a lot of work. I know I'm not going to be perfect. I know I might mess up. And when that does happen, you give yourself grace and you use it as a learning lesson and you bounce back and move forward. That's when you win. The goal isn't just to lose weight fast. The goal is to lose weight forever. So I don't care if your coworker lost 50 pounds in 3 months. I don't care if your aunt lost 20 pounds in a month. I care about you being able to lose weight and keep it off. When you lose that 50, 60, or even 80 pounds, you're not going to care if it took you 6 months or 18 months. You'll just be proud that you stuck with it long enough to finish. Most people fail because they just quit too soon. So ask yourself this: are you following something you could stick with for years, not just weeks? And that's why I'm not a massive fan of diets, because for most people, they go on a diet and then they come off of a diet. Now, if you have to lose 60 pounds, you can't afford to come off of the diet. So when you look at your food, ask yourself, am I creating a lifestyle out of this, or is this some short-term thing I'm doing to get results quickly? Because if it is a short-term thing you're doing to get results quickly, yes, you might see that short-term success of losing weight, but can you keep it going after the weight is lost? So here it is. Build nutrition you can actually repeat. You stop guessing with your food. You build a system around your food so it removes the decision fatigue out of it. The next thing you do is you train in a way that fits your body. So instead of doing boot camp classes or HIIT cardio or going to the gym to burn as many calories as you can on your Apple Watch, you focus on fat loss outside of the gym through movement and mastering your food, and you focus on building muscle inside of the gym. And when you do it that way, you're going to be able to sustain the weight that you lost, and you're also going to be able to look better because you focused on fat loss, not necessarily weight loss. The third thing you do is you actually get accountable so you don't fall off, because you're able to get started and you're good at that and you've done that in the past. But the reason you have been able to be successful on this weight loss journey is because you don't have someone in your corner pushing you when you feel like quitting. And then last but not least, you understand that this is a marathon, not a sprint, because you can do all the right things, but if you're not patient enough, if you're not okay with putting in the work and not losing weight on the scale after a week or 2 weeks, you're probably going to burn yourself out. Understand that on this journey, you will have weeks where you don't lose weight even though you ate perfectly, even though you worked out 5 times in a week, even though you did 10,000 plus steps every single day. Can you live with the fact that you might not see the results as quickly as you would like? Can you live with the fact that this might take you 6 months, 9 months, maybe even 12 months? But at the end of the day, you can have peace with yourself because you know the goal isn't to lose weight fast, the goal is to lose weight forever. And when you can have that revelation, that mental shift inside, that's when you see the changes. Now, if you feel like you're at a point where you need that accountability, you need someone in your corner pushing you every step of the journey, and you're good at getting started, but you always fall off when life hits you, what I want you to do is fill out the link in the description below, and what I'll do is I'll reach out directly to you to see if I can help.